All right, a warm welcome everyone to the HIWE-project's open forum. I'm so glad that you're all here, and I'm so glad that we also have people joining us on YouTube. My name is Piritta Parkkari. I'm one of the researchers from the HIWE-project. I work at University of Eastern Finland's Business School. And today is all about making sure that we can improve the employment, entrepreneurship and inclusion of highly skilled internationals in Finland. So basically, the whole HIWE-project has been studying the experiences of highly skilled internationals in Finland, working on entrepreneurship and living here. And this is the key thing that we want to do, and we know that you all feel passionate about this too, so we are very happy to have you all here. And today, during the seminar portion, we have first a presentation from Professor Tero Montonen and Ulla Hytti, who are our project leaders, and they will be telling you a bit about what is the HIWE-project and the policy recommendations that we've just published. After that, we will hear commentaries from Business Finland, highly skilled internationals and companies. And we will have time for questions and comments after their presentation, and then again after all the commentaries. And of course, it would be awesome if you could all join the conversation online as well and use the hashtag HIWE Open Forum and tag us at HIWE5 on X, and on LinkedIn you can find us at the HIWE-project. And for those of you who are here in person, we will be taking some pictures today, especially Anna, for communication purposes. If you don't want your picture to be used anywhere, please come and find me during one of the breaks and let me know. And for those of you who are watching us on YouTube, the chat is open and ready for you. So please, if you have any questions or comments, start firing them away. And the policy recommendations that we're going to be mentioning a lot today, you can find them using this QR code or by going through our webpage, hive.fi/policy recommendations. And on YouTube, you should also have the link directly there in the chat. And I will put this up many times again today. But without further ado, I would like to ask Professor Tero Montonen, who is the Associate Professor of Innovation Management at the University of Eastern Finland's Business School, and Ulla Hytti, who is the Professor of Entrepreneurship at Turku University, to come and talk to us about how to promote highly skilled internationals' employment, entrepreneurship and inclusion in Finland. Basically, they're just going to be sharing our results and the policy recommendations. Go ahead, Tero and Ulla.
Ready? Okay. Welcome on my behalf also to this open forum. I don't think we need any introductions anymore because Piritta already introduced us. So for our presentation, what we are going to tell you is about perhaps the background first of what the HIWE-project is about, and then the key findings as a background for the policy recommendations, and then as a main course, the policy recommendations at the end. So for the background for the project, let me first tell you about the logic and then the focus and what we have actually done in the project in detail. So 2 years ago, we took as a starting point the ongoing discussion that Finland needs international talent. And there are several reasons behind this need. So first, we are an aging society. Then we have decreasing birth rates. And these developments in combining the fiscal sustainability gap. On the other hand, also organization and companies are lacking skillful employees in order to grow, innovate and renew their businesses. So on the other hand, Finland has a lot to offer for the international talent. We are a Nordic welfare society with good health and welfare system, free education and transparent institutions. So what we noticed with these discussions is that they are mainly dominated by the society level and economical perspectives. As such, they focus on the needs of society, Finland, and organizations. So in order to complement these discussions, we decided to approach international talent question from a bit different angle. So first we decided to look at things from the perspective of internationals themselves. Secondly, instead of looking things at the macro level, we decided to zoom in on the personal and day-to-day experiences of internationals. So guided by these ideas, we asked, how do internationals see Finland, and what are their lived experiences of Finnish labor markets and entrepreneurial opportunities? So in addition to these questions, we also asked or thought about how could we make use of this kind of knowledge and information. So we decided to focus on two things. First, the knowledge side, and then the policies and policymaking side, and how these two could be combined or connected in new ways. So we wanted to provide knowledge about experiences of different groups of high-skilled internationals. But we also argued that while the knowledge is important, it might not be enough. So for certain kind of deep-seated problems, the solutions require also policy making, novelty in policy making. So we wanted to explore two things. First, how to involve high-skilled internationals into policy making as experts by experience with their insights on the existing challenges. And secondly, and more broadly, we asked how to build policy making more systematically on collaboration across different stakeholders, internationals included. So, as a result of these ideas, our basic argument is that if policymaking is built on collaboration and co-creation of various stakeholders, then new kind of solutions and approaches to the existing challenges can be found. So for this purpose, we wanted to also explore the possibility of collaborative governance model for this involvement. So this, in the next phase, we started the implementation of these different parts of the project, and the first part was a research done in the project. So we, and as an important note for us also is that we try to follow our own idea of importance of collaboration between different stakeholders. So we did the research part in close collaboration with internationals and key stakeholders for the project. So we actively asked feedback for the results and outcomes for our work in order to develop them further. So in concrete terms, we started by interviewing 60 we made 60 live course interviews of high-skilled internationals, 3 groups of them from 4 different industry sectors. So the 3 groups were immigrants, cosmopolitans, and returning expats. The idea of using these categorizations was that all of these have a bit different relationship to Finland. So immigrants, in an ideal case, they come to stay. Cosmopolitans are more on the visiting side. And then, of course, returning expats are Finnish who have at some stage moved abroad to study or work and then decided to come back. The 4 sectors, different industry sectors, were health and pharma, ICT and engineering, international business, and tourism and hospitality. So after we have done these 60 interviews and gathered the data set, we did do 2 things. We first generated 5 composite stories to illustrate the diversity of experiences of internationals. And these can be found from our website, if you are interested. And secondly, we analyzed the data for the key challenges that the internationals experience. So in the second phase, we focused on what has been done to support. It's the right one. Okay. What has been done to support high-skilled international integration to labor market and entrepreneurship? So, and who are the key actors in this field? So we first mapped the ecosystems supporting internationals in 4 different regions: Helsinki, Turku, Tampere, and Kuopio. And developed ecosystem maps that provide systematic presentation of different service providers and services in these regions. Also, these maps can be found on our website. So the third phase was the policy profiling, and we gathered or mapped all the relevant national policy documents regarding international talents. And then lastly, we did the gap analysis where we compared policies to the key challenges that we found in the first stage and see if there are any major gaps between these 2. Okay.
Yes, so to complement this, so in the last part, in the fifth kind of bubble here, we also wanted to not only look at the policy recommendations for the challenges of today, but we also wanted to think that how the system could work in the future. So what kind of collaborative practices, how different public and private actors can come together to solve these joint problems, to engage different stakeholders and to decrease the power distance between different stakeholders. So this is what we mean by the model for collaborative governance that could outlive this project and the immediate solutions for the challenges of today.
Let's go next to the key findings of the research part, what I was told before. So the first one is the key challenges that high-skilled internationals experience. And while most internationals have good experiences of Finland, many also have similar kinds of challenges and we have divided these in 3 broad categories. So the first one is experience of labor market and working life as not inclusive. And there are several reasons behind this. The first one is language expectations and requirements on finding work, and also when you are, if you have a job, then and as part of working life, then there are difficulties with the language issues also. The second problem is the degree or experience recognition. So as by definition, international talent is an expert. And if your expertise is not recognized, that's a problem or challenge. Then also the recruitment practices are experienced as not appreciative. And if you're working in company or organization, there are also found different misconducts and discrimination and so on. Also, the employment services are not found as very knowledgeable for the international talent, and that's why they are not seen as very helpful on those terms. So the second category is experiencing the public institution and authorities as distant and even demanding. So if you have lack of knowledge of how things and system work in Finland, it's easy to understand that the institution and authorities are experienced as distant. If you also confront bad service, customer service, or in a more broad terms, lack of customer orientation in these institutions or with the authorities, then the experience is also seen as distant, or lack of empathy or inefficiency on doing things by the authorities. So there are also different requirements that are quite compelling, especially for the residency issues. For example, you need to have some kind of minimum income, and that forces, in many cases, people to take jobs that are beneath their expertise. And also need for the different kind of visas might be confusing for different employment. There are different kind of visas, and that's not found very easy to understand in all the cases. So the third category is social integration and well-being in a more broad terms, and those are found as quite challenging in Finland. So many internationals that come to Finland have different social backgrounds, social cultural backgrounds, and then getting used to what it is like in Finland is many a bit challenging. Also, how to be an active member in society, or how to participate and influence on public things. That's also experienced as difficult in many cases. So for the policy profiling, we actually didn't do traditional analysis of those documents, but the main observation from gathering all those relevant documents was that the sheer number of different policy documents is large, and as such, they show that steps have been taken to improve things for the internationals. But perhaps not the number of the documents is important, but how these policies succeed to tackle the challenges that the internationals face. That's the key question in our project, and I think that the key results is that practically all the challenges have already been recognized and variety of measures have been taken. So to summarize, this finding is that we have a kind of dilemma. So how challenges seem to prevail despite the variety of policy measures. So that was the key question with what we proceeded in the next phase.
So some of you may recognize this figure because this is the figure illustrating the co-creation process, the 3 different co-creational workshops that we organize. So when we identified these challenges and then we kind of looked at, okay, what are perhaps the key issues that we could tackle in these processes, so we selected 3. First one was the finding a job, finding employment, and hence we had a workshop focusing on the recruitment of international talent. Another one was this experience that even if you found a job, you may experience feelings of discrimination or at least isolation or not belonging and not being able to contribute to the workplace and to the organization, and therefore another workshop co-creation process focused on inclusive workplaces. And then the third one was related to what Tero just said, that we have a lot of services that we identified and that are trying, of course, to be helpful and target the needs. But at least for some of them, there seem to be these gaps or something seems to be missing. And therefore, the third series of co-creation process focused on impactful services. So in the idea of the co-creation, so when we identified the challenges, so it wasn't us researchers trying to, okay, what we need to do about this or what could we recommend, but we involved, and I recognize many faces here, we involved you and many perhaps over the YouTube to work with these issues in our 3 processes where we also experimented with different methods, face-to-face workshop, but also online workshops to also be inclusive to the different preferences and learn about the co-creation processes taking place physically or online. And then those preliminary ideas, recommendations were then opened up for broader commenting, so involving not only those who took part in the workshops, and this is then used to finalize the policy recommendations that we will be discussing today. So hope those of you who have contributed to these workshops that you can also see how they have been very impactful and influencing the work and the outcomes here. So from here, I guess it's kind of then a good link to start discussing the policy recommendations as such.
Perhaps before that, we did the workshops to find some kind of understanding of why the gap exists. But we also went to discuss with several experts in the area. So, and with these discussions, we found interesting explanations for the gap, why the gap exists, and what can be done to bridge the gap in some way. So the ideas that came up in these conversations or discussions was that all of these immigrant in largely put, the immigrant issue is quite new in Finland in this scale that it is today. And so the policies, it takes time to establish and implement the policies. So the newness of things was one explanation. And there's the second one that the implementation of these policies requires resources and continuity. And that's not always the case, that they are always available in order to implement them. So when our researchers discussed about the possibility of how to answer this or bridge the gap, so the first answer was we need a shared vision for commitment and long-term continuous development. These things. And also as a message for internationals themselves is that the best service is a used service. So from the policymakers side or public sector side is needed a better marketing and active usage of these services. So now I think we are ready to go to the recommendations. And we have divided them in two parts. The first set of recommendations, there are 3, that concentrates on the topics of what based on our results, what are the topics that policy making should concentrate. And as an important note is that all these recommendations are done from the perspective of internationals, how they experience the policies and related services, the service system and individual services targeted to them. So what kind of developments would be helpful for them? So the recommendations in this part, the 3 recommendations, are divided in different levels. The first one concentrates on a kind of strategic perspective to the policies. The second one focuses on services on a system level. And the third one centers on the implementation of services at the front line, so where the service providers meet the internationals. Before, again, as a background information for this first recommendation, is that we found that there is a tension behind certain issues. So the tension between public discussion and the day-to-day experience of internationals. So these two don't match. Secondly, most of the public discussions, like I said at the beginning, of the need of skilled immigrants is dominated by the economical or economic benefits, where talent is seen as resources. So what is missing from this discussion is the social and cultural benefits. So those kind of things are not discussed. Or if they are, then mostly the internationals are described as threats. So based on these observations, the first recommendation is to promote a comprehensive change regarding the importance of international talent in Finland. So how to do this? How to achieve this policy? So there are three means to make that change. The first one is vision, then a mission, and then third one is leadership. The vision is to develop a long-term vision for skilled nationals in Finland. It takes a holistic view on social, cultural, and economical importance of internationals in Finland. The vision should also outline the guiding logic of policies for integration. And this is an example. Should the guiding logic perhaps be based on assimilation approach or a multicultural approach or something else, or combination of these? But either case, the vision would be helpful. The mission, the aim of the mission is to establish common principles to guide policymaking. So we propose that they could be sustainability, diversity, inclusivity, and trust, which all of these principles would be reflected in future policies. So the mission functions as a guideline for decision making and for organizing and implementation of the services on other levels. The third mean is the leadership. So we propose that public sector could serve as a benchmark for recruiting international talent and for developing diverse and inclusive workplace practices. Putting more simply, leading by an example. So the second recommendation concentrates on the service level system and how services should be organized. And it's develop a service system and ensure services are easy to find, understand, and use. So there are, of course, two types from the international's perspective, there are two types of services. Those who are targeted to internationals and those who are targeted to all. So what we mean with this recommendation is based on we think that it's better to place to start with the services that are targeted to internationals. So it would be helpful for internationals if there would be an integrating service promise at the service level, which would be in line with the vision and mission. For example, describing what is promised, what are the rights and duties of internationals, which would again help to orient what can be expected. Also, in addition to the service promise, would be helpful to develop a common organizing principle for the services. So again, that they would be easy to find, understand, and use. So we have a variety of examples. So one is the idea of one contact. These might already exist or has been developed, but either case we think that these are good examples on how to develop the services as a system. So the one contact point means that the first contact in services takes the lead. So avoid bouncing internationals around. a concrete example is that in our university we are in 2 campuses, and we have departments that are in both campuses, and it's the teachers who move from campus to another, not the students. One-stop shop. That's about concentrating the key services to a one permanent point with a good access. One identification is to reduce paperwork by promoting digital services, digital service platforms, and identity. Multilingualism means that services and documentations in every service point should be at least in English, in addition to Finnish and Swedish. Regular communication means that active marketing of these services by the service providers would be helpful for the internationals. Then the third and the last part of the first set of recommendations is called Develop Services to Advance High-Skilled Internationals' Market Position and Flexibility of the Labor Market. I said it a bit differently than what it says there. So from the perspectives of international talent, in some cases, or perhaps in many cases, the labor market is often global. But in Finland, the requirements for working life are often approached from a national point of view. And there is a mismatch between those two. So this is one of the reasons why internationals experience Finnish labor market as partly inaccessible. So the means for making the change for this recommendation would be the employment services, entrepreneurship services, and employer services. So for the employment services, the recognition of education and experience let's go back, to improve the employability in several fronts. One of those would be to recognize the education and experience of international talent better than today, and actively promote opportunities to learn Finnish or Swedish. Then the entrepreneurship services. One of the key suggestion would be that there would be one residence permit, both employment, self-employment, and entrepreneurship, instead of several. Also to provide international students with knowledge both employment and entrepreneurship in Finland. And lastly, the employer services. So service providers would need to advance the peer mentoring between companies of international workers and encourage companies to re-evaluate the language and other requirements that they have for international employees. And also to encourage companies to adopt diversity, equity, and inclusion practices. Yeah.
Okay, so then moving forward. So the second policy brief looks more on the how part. So if the policy brief 1 was looking more at the what should be done, and here it focuses more on the how and how to promote kind of this participation of internationals into the policy making. But of course, these are interrelated, so they are not totally separate. But then we also decided that there's a magic number of 3. So we have 3 policy recommendations also here. And the first one is that the public policy making for integrating international talent into Finnish life should rely more heavily on collaboration between different stakeholders, the policymakers, internationals, and other stakeholders. So how could this be done? So, of course, the first issue that we have identified is that the internationals are sometimes lacking voice. How to become heard? So there should be different ways to involve and hear from the internationals. It could be online service, online feedback and initiative. For example, comparing to the national citizen initiative, where you could raise your concern or come up with ideas. It could be that the cities or the regions they would have like everyday practice or common practice, annual practice, where they would organize the meetings, workshops, where the internationals are heard, not just for the services that are targeting them, but perhaps other issues like the schools in the city or the healthcare system in the city. We should also be encouraging participation of internationals in civil society and labor market organizations, because through them they can have a channel to influence. Next up in Finland will be the municipal elections. So internationals should be encouraged to stand up for election, but also to vote, to have a channel. Finland is also a land of associations, as we know, and internationals should also have more formal or be encouraged to form formal associations, because through the associations they have a voice, for example, in the municipal decision making and drafting of legislation. The second one deals with this problem that Tero has also already mentioned about the lacking awareness of existing services. Even the service providers are not always knowledgeable with other services, and internationals sometimes find it difficult to find and access the services. So here, how do we implement participatory processes to involve internationals into the actual planning and designing of the services? How do we think about every service encounter as an opportunity to learn from the challenges and encourage those to pass on the ideas? How do we build the capacity of the service providers to learn about the challenges and the topics that include internationals? And how do we then recognize and reward to acknowledge the contributions of internationals into the service provision? The third one is about this workplace inclusivity. So from our research, we found that there's kind of two stories coming out, that the autonomy, the low hierarchy, the good work-life balance in the workplaces is really appreciated by many internationals. But then we found out also about these feelings of isolation, discrimination, and so forth. So in order to solve this, we need also changes in the workplaces. How do we promote openness and listening to the internationals at the workplace? How do we create channels, different committees, boards that would discuss this at the workplace levels? How do we highlight positive examples? Because media loves horror stories, but there are also very good examples. So how do we promote that? And finally, we need to be very conscious of the language we use in the workplaces. It's not switching to English or Finnish, but perhaps having more context sensitivity. When do we need what language, and also how do we adapt bilingual processes, and how do we enable language learning? So thank you for this presentation, and then we are open to questions, and the whole team of researchers has promised to answer your questions, so the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Tero and Ulla. And those of you who are watching us on YouTube, please write any questions or comments you have. There's a bit of a lag over there, so start writing now so we hear your questions. Well, let's start with the live audience. Any questions or comments? Yes, Anna, you have the microphone. Could you pass it on?
Oh, sorry. Thanks. Hey, thank you for a great presentation and so many insights I'm still taking in. One of the last things that you mentioned was language and the use of language. You said that it's not about just Finnish or English, but I find that sometimes the language that is used in our public institutions is very inaccessible, even for an everyday Finn like me. I sometimes don't understand, like, what is this? It's clearly Finnish, but somehow I don't understand, and I wouldn't. And I find that it's the same case for internationals often. And then, like, for example, employment services, some forms are only in Finnish. So in my day-to-day work, I often help people understand what is actually required of them. So was this something that you also looked into, and like kind of the, like, maybe modifying the language to be more, I don't know, accessible or simple? Like, do we have to use such complex terms?
I mean, that's a good point, because also I think the idea of the inclusive workplace, it doesn't only kind of benefit the internationals, but it benefits all people coming with diverse backgrounds, and et cetera, et cetera. So I think your point about promoting this clear Finnish, selkosuomi, I think it would be very helpful for all of us if that would be kind of a thing that should be underlined in the policy making. So thanks, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments from the audience? Yes, go ahead.
I can continue right after Viivi. Thank you for the presentation. I wanted to hear a little bit about the background when you were thinking, like, doing the research part there. Did you benchmark different countries, like Estonian side, of how they have solved this, or any other countries where they have done already quite a bit different things for this?
No,
you do one? Okay.
No. I mean, this wasn't part of the actual research. Of course, we keep hearing stories of some good stories about somewhere, but then another person saying that, okay, well, it's not that good either. That comes with these problems and those problems, and within this context, because I mean, I think all the policies and services, they need to be very context sensitive. So as Tero was saying, we have a very short history of immigration. So if we then try to adopt something from countries where there's a long history and a lot of immigrants, it's kind of bread and butter there, it becomes very challenging to try to take that here. But it doesn't mean that we should not be learning and then reflecting about the other countries. But we haven't done that specifically for this project.
Thank you. Very good questions. Any other questions, comments? Yes.
Thank you. I'm Virpi Laukkanen from Savonia University of Applied Sciences, and this is actually not a question, it's a comment. So I mentioned already to Ulla and Tero that I was in the morning in another meeting where we were discussing about how to estimate how much international students will come to Finland in the near future. And we discussed there the same challenges that I think that there are when you have been discussing with the international talents, that there really seems to be a bit kind of a dilemma at the moment. Everyone is saying that we need to have international talents, and at the same time we are doing the kind of politics that is not very much welcoming. And I think that it's very important that these kind of discussions are raised, and I'm really happy that there are quite clear policy recommendations also given here that hopefully they will be heard. That's my comment for this.
Thank you very much for the valuable comment. Do you, Ulla or Tero, want to react?
There's a Minna.
Okay. Yes, sure. Go ahead, Minna.
Hi, my name is Minna Frank. I'm here to represent the International Working Women of Finland, although I do have several hats when it comes to international recruitment and international talent. But I want to get us back to basics, to the very, very beginning, when we talk about vision and mission. And in the title of the project, High-Skilled Internationals, Bottom-Up Insights into Policy Innovation for Work and Entrepreneurship in Finland, I want to ask who we see as being high-skilled. Do we base our policies on administrative categories or on human potential? So when we start talking about vision and mission, I think that's the first thing that we need to address. Who are high-skilled?
Yeah. So I think we could turn this question to the researchers who did the interviews. How did you choose the interviewees?
Okay, thank you for the question. I guess we had several ideas and criteria in mind when we were starting. Of course, we have the 4 different fields from which we wanted to recruit interviewees. But for we didn't kind of like start with that from that perspective. We started from sort of a more simple idea of thinking of talented people, most of them having university degrees from perhaps some other country or from Finland also, but not necessarily. They may have sort of high-level previous expertise from some field, having some demanding job that they have handled before or something like that. But mostly our interviewees were or did have already a degree from a higher higher education institution from Finland or some other country. But you did pose a very good question and comment. When we would go into that kind of visioning thing, doing it together, then we would need to reach an understanding together. What is it that we mean by this talent? How we approached it in this research project may be a little bit different than what we would then reach together an understanding when we enter that process, and hopefully we can only sort of recommend that that kind of visioning process would be taken up by already perhaps this present government. It does have some institutional context and some tools which could be used to start doing it. So perhaps and hopefully it will happen. Did I sort of approximately answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. What about our other researchers?
No, but I was thinking that maybe we also, we have been focusing on kind of international talent, high-skilled internationals, but if we are going towards this visioning, so maybe we need a broader idea as a kind of a start. But it seems a bit elitist if we are saying that this is what we want. Everybody else should be excluded, especially as we know that the labor shortages are found in all levels of jobs, and probably we need more immigrants, full stop, as the kind of, if we think it from this perspective.
And by the way, the lady who gave the comment was Tiina Rättilä, who is the project manager of this HIWE project. Sorry.
Well, I agree with Ulla that we have a data set from high-skilled internationals. But for the policy recommendations, I'm not sure if they are only applies to those people or those internationals or more broadly. So, and I think it's up to the people or the who will develop the policies for, in the future to decide how to understand these policies and who are they targeted to, who are we speaking when we are. But I from my opinion, I think that most of these recommendations applies in broader immigrants also, broader sets of immigrants. Those happen just to be high-skilled internationals in our case. Yeah.
And I think, Kati, you still wanted to comment. We have time for one more quick comment before we have the actual commentaries.
Okay, thank you. My name is Kati Lammi. I don't know how to describe my hat. I have had several hats during this project, but this target group question is something that I often think nowadays, that we are talking about different sectors and different groups and kind of sometimes putting them even against each other. Like sometimes at the job market, I get the feeling that we are not good enough anytime. Sometimes I am too old. Sometimes I am too young. Sometimes I have a wrong sex or gender. Sometimes it's a question about my work abilities. I don't qualify, or whatever it is. So, like what you are saying, that if the policies would be better, it would be benefit everybody. So if I were you, I would use that as a selling point to the decision makers, that it's because sometimes you get also the defense. People get defensive because no, I don't like your group. I don't like your group. I'm just thinking of my own group. So I don't know if you understood what I mean. Yeah. It would help everybody.
Thank you.
Indeed, I think that's a very good comment to end on. Once again, you can find the policy recommendations using this QR code or just going to hive.fi/policy recommendations. And I highly encourage us all to also continue this conversation on social media using #HiveOpenForum. And I think this is also now a perfect time to thank everyone. As you probably got from their presentation, we haven't done this alone. We've had tens and hundreds of people involved. So we want to give a big, very, very big thank you to everyone who has been involved with this project, because we definitely didn't do it alone. We did it with you, and we are so glad about that. So a big thank you to everyone. And also a big thank you to Business Finland for funding us. I think we forgot to say that in the beginning, that this was a 2-year research project funded by Business Finland and implemented by University of Eastern Finland and University of Turku. But thank you, Ulla and Tero, very much. And now let's get Laura mic'd up. It's time for the commentaries. Now we will have 3 commentaries back to back, and after that, again, more time for conversation and questions. And the first comment is gonna be from Laura Lindeman, who is the Senior Director and Head of Work in Finland unit at Business Finland. So she's gonna be talking about the funder's perspective on these issues. And then we also have Vaida Kavaliukaité-Kaijanmäki talking about the perspective of internationals, and Mika Mustakallio talking about the perspective of companies. But Laura, whenever you're ready.
Always ready to talk about these topics. Thank you so much for the whole project team for this honor to be here today and have the possibility to give one of the commentary speeches. I'm a bit excited because usually I always have the slides and everything, and now I have papers. So let's see how this goes. I was asked to reflect this from funders' perspective, and of course for Business Finland it's quite obvious why these topics are important. As Tero already mentioned, this is maybe the biggest question for companies: growth, innovations, investments. How do we get more growth, well-being and internationalization to Finland, which are the key things that Business Finland is working with. 90,000 jobs were left unfilled due to labor shortages in 2022. This means that if companies don't get those key workers and experts that they need, they can't create new jobs for those who are, for example, unemployed in Finland. So sometimes there is this discussion that do we need more internationals when there are already unemployed people in Finland? This is not like zero-sum game. We need people to create new jobs. According to a study that we made with Innolink, with hundreds of companies in Finland that have employed internationals, that clearly showed that there is linkage between growth of companies and hiring internationals. So it is about growth, clearly. Also, we need new taxpayers. Foreign experts working in specialist roles contribute more than 20,000 per person annually in tax revenue for Finland. At the same time, when it's clear that we need more internationals to our labor market, at the same time companies in Finland are not fully utilizing the potential of those who are already here. For example, 53% of international graduates leave after their studies, and this is, I think, very closely related to the findings of the HIWE-project as well. And it's also like why Business Finland thought that this is an important project to fund. It's also that we need to have the voice of internationals into these discussions and developments. So this was one way to do that. I would now like to highlight some of my key takeaways from for the future development of Finland's talent attraction and retention. Of course, there are so many, many of them that I could talk the whole day, but I will pick some. The study shows very clearly the holistic nature of talent attraction and retention development. Attraction can never be done without thinking of smooth migration processes, relocation processes, integration of the talent and the whole family. And this means that these issues are cross-cutting the whole society. Actually, in every society sector, in every service provider, in many levels, we need to consider how well do we welcome international talents. The ecosystem maps that the project did, I believe they are highly valuable for local ecosystem players. The feeling of belonging is crucial, and if Finland really wants to succeed in getting internationals to come and stay, we should start thinking international talents as permanent and equal part of the society, not as a resource that is utilized for a while and then thrown away. We should be a country where everyone feels a part of the society and wants to contribute in many ways. If Finland is not committed to internationals living here, why would they commit to Finland? The research project's findings of racism and discrimination need to be taken very seriously. It's everyone's responsibility to make Finland open and inclusive for new Finns and make everyone feel like home. Policymakers anyhow show the way here, and they have even bigger responsibility in this, because they have the power to define the atmosphere in the society, political discourse, legislation, and deciding also on resources. The need for a long-term vision that crosses over governmental periods is clear. Talent Boost program and also the work and study-based migration roadmap by previous government have been very good initiatives towards this. But we definitely need stronger political commitment and security for long-term development cross-governmental periods. Otherwise, it's because this is long-term development that we're doing, and if policy decisions are coming and going, and then we don't have the clear direction, and that makes everything very difficult. And it's good to be noted that involving international talents and companies into the development and planning such visions is crucial. I think that the paradox that the study founded about many developments happen at a time when international talents don't see the change is very, very interesting. I've been thinking of this a lot, and only thing that I have come up with this is the different time spans. International talents need the solutions right away for their situation, but changes in the society happen very slowly. And it might be very who is struggling at the moment to see that things have actually evolved during, for example, the past 15 years. Also, new challenges arise all the time. I've been working with talent attraction retention issues now for about 16, 17 years. Even though the research very clearly shows that there is a lot to be done still, and I really agree, I really wish to emphasize that never before international talent issues have been so crucial part of every single form of economic, labor, innovation, and education policy on all levels, from ministerial groups to city councils. When I started in this, I was knocking everyone's door that would you be interested in discussing this? No one was very interested then. Now it's totally different game. So there is hope, and the topic is there where the decisions are made. 15 years ago, this was a distant dream. I wish to emphasize also the important finding on participation of international talents. I think it's very crucial that in a democratic society, international talents are also taking part in policy making. So this point that you made about taking part in elections and taking part in politics is very important. because it's important also to think that who represents this heterogeneous group of international talents. If we want to involve them, who is to be invited to the table? So this kind of representation issues are very important, and I've been happy to see different kind of NGOs by international talents, like International Working Women of Finland and Bloom and so on, have been established in previous years. Also, the point that services should be better found, that's very, very important. I think that we have been going forward in that as well. For example, this one-stop shop issue. There are international houses in several cities nowadays. They bring together under the same roof essential services for international talents and companies hiring them. On a national level, we have work in Finland, which is formulated by Business Finland, and KEHA, which is the national organization for employment services. I don't remember the official name of KEHA in English. I don't know if Harry can help me. No. But anyway, so Work in Finland, for example, has the website where we have gathered all the crucial information together. We also have employment advisory service. And I'm also happy to tell that in all of this, we have involved our customers, both international talents and companies, in the development process. So no services should never be developed and designed without the customers, and that is obvious, I think. And by the way, we also have the mentoring program for leaders in companies. So this kind of service has already been there for a couple of years. But if nobody knows about these services, then there is a problem. And that's why I really hope that everyone here and online will do their best to tell about those services in their networks, that we make them known. Otherwise, there's no point in having them. The final point that I wish to raise is the development of employment and employer services. As probably most of you know, Finland is going through a huge reform where employment services are moved from state to municipalities next year. So I see this as a very good opportunity in developing employment services to match better the needs of international talents. I strongly believe that we are already taking steps to the right direction in Finland regarding many recommendations, but we are not in the finish line yet. And for the upcoming development, we need to utilize the findings of HIWE-project and learn from them. Thank you once again for the research team for the collaboration and all the important findings. That will help Finland on the way to become the best international talent destination. We should aim for no less. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura, so much for your wonderful commentary. Then it's time for our next commentary from Vaida Kavaliukaité-Kaijanmäki, who is currently working as a growth hacker at East and in general is very passionate about developing the Finnish labour market and more human-centric hiring. So please, Vaida, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for the HIWE-project team for all the hard work that you put in, and for inviting me to take this opportunity to tell hundreds, thousands of stories in under 10 minutes. How can you do that? Well, you can't. That is why I will be speaking in sets of threes. First, by establishing 3 indisputable facts. There are 2 Finlands which exist in parallel. One, where an international arrives, possibly with a relocation assistance from an employer or for other reason, fairly quickly finds a job, quality job, and settles down fairly easily without encountering major obstacles. But today we are here to talk about the second Finland, the one where, more often than not, internationals find themselves unemployed or underemployed in lower skilled, lower paid jobs and services that are meant to assist them. Finland does not have a shortage of those. How does HIWE-project fall into this picture? For one, it is different. Instead of placing all the migrants into one basket, they picked the highly educated ones and narrowed the topic even down, concentrating only on the policies. The research team is independent, which allowed them to see beyond the national marketing strategy and see things, evaluate things more critically, and use stronger language than you would otherwise see in similar reports. During the last year, though, we have seen quite a few policies which came out. So we have to ask ourselves, does that make HIWE-project results outdated? Well, no. Many internationals, in fact, will agree with me when I say that what we do not need is more data. We do not need the data to be more accurate. And we definitely do not need more policies which put the burden of getting a job on an individual who does not have the decision-making power to get hired, international or Finn. To demonstrate that, this is a small sample of a few reports, surveys, projects which have been published in the last several years. We do have results. We do have information. It is overwhelmingly repeated in most of them, and still waiting to be acted upon. What do we need then? These will be a few of my top picks that I believe, in terms of policy, can have the most impact and the most immediate impact. Internationals need easy maneuvering between study, entrepreneurship, employment permits. HIWE team has highlighted that as one of their recommendations, so I will move on to a different proposal. Previously, unemployed job seekers were able to earn up to 300 euros per month without getting into trouble with Kela. Well, that has been eliminated. I would say bring it back. Make it non-taxable, make it at least 500 a month. This will allow people to have the courage, create the conditions for them to potentially start part-time entrepreneurship, the so-called side hustles, which can turn into a full-time self-employment. On top of that, what it will create additional disposable income, which they can use for purchasing services and products which they otherwise cannot afford, boosting the local economies, and reducing the workload for TE services, other employment services, which brings me to the public sector. Laura brought this up. Everyone knows the only way to create a successful product or service is to develop it with the intended user. Hire internationals before they are fluent in Finnish so that they are on equal footing, an equal participant creating the services. And the services reform, which is a great opportunity to change the training that the employees receive. It would be incredibly difficult to reach every single international who arrives to Finland early on and tell them, this is how you get a job. But instead, having that information concentrated in quality training so that whenever a person finds themselves in a situation that they are an unemployed job seeker, they get real, actionable, quality advice. The last, but definitely not least, employers. Here, even though HIWE-project was kind of concentrating mostly on bottom-up proposals, besides that, I would say that we need one more thing. The other way around. Nationwide mandate for anonymous recruitment, which would allow, well, not allow, which would basically employers have to assess the applications in the initial first round of the review without picture and without a name. Finally, we need to track the results of what we do. But numbers are not the goal. Numbers are just a tool. And we need to remember that behind every single number in our statistics is a real person. So let's track our results. Let's turn those numbers into tools, and let's get to work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vaida, for these very, very important points. Thank you. Then it's time for our final comment from Mika I can't speak, Mustakallio, who is the co-founder and chairman at MORS and REMMI työpalvelut, and he indeed also has a stake in employing and helping to employ highly skilled internationals. So please, Mika, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you for the project, and thank you, Vaida. You had all participants, and here we are, all participants. The research, the funding, the actors who tried to find a job, and in a small part in the end, also the entrepreneurs. And I think entrepreneurs kind of play quite important part of this game. But the main point is that we are here together, and this is a good start. Also, very much thank you for this research and how it was organized. I was participating in these co-creation workshops, and this type of cross-communication and understanding each other and talking is super important. Why I'm here is I'm interested in these things. I believe strongly in employing international people in Finland because Finland is, after all, even we think it's very central, it's just a small part of the world, and the world is international. And if we just do our things in Finnish way, we can do it within ourselves. All the companies are looking forward and looking outside. So from that point of view, it's a kind of a no-brainer that we need to be international. So from that point of view, I'm promoting this employments of internationals, of course, in general. But in this context, as we discussed today, it's the talents and higher educational people have some kind of a expert in experience role in this, because in my software company we are helping banks all around the world to make better profits and be less risky. And that's not a Finnish business, it's international business. And our people are international, we do it somewhere else. Of course, we do it in Finland and Nordics. We are born Nordic in that sense. The other thing is REMMI. REMMI is we are a group of 80 entrepreneurs behind REMMI who have just simple needs of finding people for working in our companies, and we pulled us together, and with that team we are trying to get to know people who are in Finland, who want to work, and recommend people in our own companies in this REMMI and anywhere in Finland. So this kind of two things make me in one way, and being part of this co-creation workshops makes me somehow kind of an expert in this field. Then coming into the process and the workshops, and I think it was very promising to have the opportunities and challenges. Those are kind of words that are seeking the solution. And if you ask people to put what are the opportunities that you should use and what are the challenges you should avoid or learn from, those are very, very active and encouraging words. And based on these, what is the next step is the recommendations, and it's a fantastic bunch of paper and research and base on to work with. But I think as Laura mentioned this, there are time dimensions. And hopefully all this research is helping Finland in the longer run to be better. But me as, I don't know, stressful entrepreneur checking we should do something today or now to make something. And then more important is to get the results. And I'm already there. This is our stressful set of minds. We are, for entrepreneurs, are a little bit that type. But then from that point of view, couple of points or thoughts to all of us. What are those actions? How do we reach results today or now, while Finland is becoming better? So from that point of view, the opportunities, let's go back there in the opportunities, and that was the starting point. There are things in Finland, even if we do the policies better, and even if we do all the actors and things better, there are things that are working today. So my recommendation is use those. There are, after all, many good things. And I think in the starting point also in the questionnaire was that, yes, our system and the help is quite high quality, so use it. And for example, working permits. Example, in the middle of the hassle when Russians did the bad thing and went to the Ukraine, I was able to recruit a guy from Moscow, from the bad place, and getting him in 2 weeks a working permit in my company, in my software company, in Finland, here, using these exactly working elements by just asking, how do we do it? I have this case, I need to get something done. And it happened in 2 weeks, and this guy has been now in Helsinki close in November, working 2 years for us. It works. So use it. Then, yes, there are a lot of bad examples and a lot of things to be corrected, but there are also very many good examples, and share those examples, because by sharing the examples, people get aware that these things are possible. And then when it's possible, it's encouraging. You can do it. You can do it also, and that's something that we can do now. And then the starting point of having entrepreneurs and research and all the results together. So there is this one trick, this magic that puts these two huge pools of unemployed people, international talents, whoever they are, and the team of companies and entrepreneurs. How do we get these pools touch? That's the magic. Small bridging. It's not putting them on top of each other, because they are two things, but bridging. And there is nothing more important than sell contact. So those are the things. Be in contact with the companies. Sell yourself, sell your friends, sell your whoever you are doing together. Sell. Companies love that. That's the kind of things that are important. Then if we look at the challenges side, also mentioned today here, the atmosphere in the media, the sentiment is not maybe so encouraging, but don't give up. It's after all, this media has to talk about something, and bad things sell better than good things, and leave it. Go on. Don't give up, just carry on. Yes, we could go deeply in the tax issues in Finland, and I don't know. That's a long story, but still carry on and stay positive and continue contacting the companies. Be in touch with the companies. I don't know how many words you could say, but it's the most important thing. Then some words about the climate, how these actions and what's the environment. But the trend is working for us. And you, Laura, said as 15 years ago, this was an odd topic. Today it's a normal thing. The trend goes in the way that Finland is more international, and that's it, and it's a super good thing. And it happens on the street, it happens everywhere, it happens in our use of language and all that. So this trust on that, it goes to the right direction. And for the companies, for the good example, recruit people. We need international people to be able to talk with foreign countries, with different languages and with different styles and different attitudes, and that's the example what we need to do. So share, and it was there in the recommendation, and I'm super happy about it because I maybe spoke about it in every you know that's the favorite thing. It's share the positive experiences and be the example yourself. So those are the kind of how you continue and do it. Any contacts, I use always my Morse email. I use my phone, and it's in my pocket 24 hours. And it rings. It's not the modern phone. Now it's off. I know my kids are having modern phones and they never ring. They just call. You can't reach them, but that's another thing. My phone rings, and contact. Let's talk. Let's be together. It's important. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mika. Wonderful points here. And thank you, Laura and Vaida, as well, for all these wonderful commentaries. And as I mentioned, now it's time for Q&A. Once again, those of you watching us on YouTube, fire away any comments. And I would like to actually read a few comments there. Vaida, you're getting lots of love. Vaida is on the point. Thank you, Vaida, for saying it as it is. And that speakers seem very aware about the problems, hoping that all points mentioned will work. Thanks, Vaida. So thank you, Vaida. Lots of love coming to you from the chat as well. Any questions or comments now from the audience here in Helsinki? Yes, go ahead.
So Owen Hopeateto from Trade Union Tech. So we recently did a survey that found that 40% of international experts in technology had experienced discrimination and prejudice in the job hunt. And their labels of discrimination were the same things highlighted in HIWE, of too high language barriers for no reason, lack of recognition from foreign talent or foreign experience and foreign education, and closed circuits, connections not reaching the international talents. And we were discussing how should we relabel what discrimination means, or should we relabel discrimination is setting a too high Finnish barrier discrimination. we've kind of not gone there really, but you can't, well, for example, when I speak to international students, one of the things they say is asked most in interviews is, do you plan to stay in Finland? But you can't ask a Finn, do you plan to have a family soon? And it's the same question. What are your long-term goal, like personal plans? So did the HIWE project look into what do we mean by discrimination or relabeling discrimination?
I don't think we did. But that's a very, very important topic, and you raised some interesting points there. Tiina, do you want to comment on this, or just say that that was very important?
What about you? Would you have something common on discrimination? Yeah. I don't know. How did we understand?
Satu here has a comment. Satu is also one of our researchers.
Well, thank you very much for the question. Actually, we have a conference paper that is not yet published anywhere, where we actually tackle the ICT sector's discrimination, harassment, that kind of things. And there we didn't go into what the definition of discrimination is and should be, but they're like, what you're talking about sounds very similar to what we have learned. And in addition, also this language barrier, it's not only about in the situations of recruitment, but it goes to the everyday situations in the workplace. And they're like this kind of closing someone out from coffee table discussions. And even though those are not official things, you learn a lot of things there, and a lot of actually the decisions are made outside the meetings. And that way, that is a big issue in our offices. And that was kind of surprising a bit for me, that also in technical fields, because those are like the super good workplaces in this field, those ICT companies, but they're also, and in our data, the women in particular felt also, this is like a combination of being a foreign and being a female, and in the addition, if you are a woman of color, then you kind of have tons of problems in a very male-dominant field. Thank you.
Thank you, Satu, for elaborating that. Could I actually ask Laura, Vaida, and Mika you to join me here, because I feel like now, it's you who we want to have questions to. I want to have you here with me. So, any questions to one of our commentators or all of them at the same time? Go ahead.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Sami Tanskanen from the University of Eastern Finland. Vaida, you mentioned anonymous recruitment as one of the proposals for you, and it's also recruitment strategies and diversity management that's also in the policy recommendations. I was just wondering, I was rereading an article by Rask, Lilia, and company about labor discrimination in Finland from a couple of years back. And they mentioned that by reviewing some research in Finland, that actually we talk a lot about diversity management, monimuotoisuusjohtaminen, and we talk a lot about these things, but there's really little to suggest that those are the Finnish approach to these, for example, D&I has as of yet had real concrete results to eliminate workplace discrimination. And I think the anonymous recruitment was one of the things that there is some research to suggest that it might be a good solution, as you suggested. But I was just thinking, what do you think about the other kind of proposed changes in the labor market, especially from the company's side, diversity management and these other things? Are they effective?
Well, to begin with, anonymous recruitment addresses only discrimination in the hiring process. It doesn't address anything that happens afterwards. So that's one comment I wanted to make. About other potential methods in the workplace, nothing will work if people don't want to, or if people are not able to see that their actions are discriminatory. So we need to find ways how to help them see the other perspective of their actions and their thoughts. Something that feels completely natural to me might feel discriminatory to another person. That is very complicated and based on an individual person, right? What we can do, for starters, is we definitely need to create a more agile system, meaning that, yes, policies are slow to implement, policies are slow to create, and it is slow to see any of the results. But let's become a little bit more agile, try things out, see what other organizations have done, and does that work for us as well? So a little bit more agility.
Thank you, Vaida, and thank you, Sami, for bringing this up. There's a bit of conversation related to this topic also on YouTube, so I think this partly answered some of the questions over there. And Philip is commenting that these are great points, and GDI training and research can help identify barriers, seen and unseen, that there are often many layered and overlapping barriers to inclusion, which is very true. Any other questions or comments?
Hello again, Sini from Harrison. I wanted to ask, this is maybe for Laura and Mika a little bit, because you talked about building bridges. I'm all for it. And then Business Finland plays a big part of supporting the smaller companies as like early in their journey and building a bridge between that. And that has been a little bit of what we see in Harrison's side, that there is this lack of courage to take the step. So any thoughts for you two, or is there already a plan in that building the bridge, that how, for example, Business Finland would help these younger, smaller companies who are from the 1 to 10 people companies, but they would be interested, but they don't know how? So, yeah.
I think we're constantly seeking for new solutions for this. This is very crucial, because that's how we also see that small and mid-sized companies are the key, because new jobs are created mostly there, and also they don't have the HR resources as big companies and so on. We already do have talent funding, which is funding tool for SMEs who want to develop their skills for international leadership, how to be more ready for diversifying workplaces. So that is one tool already there. And the other one is that I mentioned already was the mentoring program for leaders in companies. Mika, you will be invited to that. Talk with Shalini there. But I think that there's kind of never enough of this. And what you said, Mika, about like selling to companies and contacting companies, I think there are many people here, and maybe also in YouTube, whose job it is to sell these services to companies. And I think it was encouraging, because sometimes we think that, do we bother companies too much when we are contacting them all over again? And it's actually very hard to get companies involved in many things, and it's because they are busy and they need to do what they are supposed to do, and they might not have time to stop and co-create together with us different things. So I think that it's encouraging that we are allowed to contact companies. So let's do that.
Yeah, many things to take up from. I think one big secret is also that, maybe I'm too close for this. One big secret is also that companies don't know. Companies don't somehow, fair to say, care, because companies are busy on doing something. and that's so simple, and that's the big secret. But it's everybody's win if somebody sees the trouble and knocks the door and presents a perfect candidate, example, somebody who has taken the time to get to know the person. And then how does it, what's the evidence or what's the proof that these things are the simple bridges, is that how do we select the service for anything we do, like having a pile of snow outside the garage, and the neighbor's garage is also always so nice and clean. What's the result? Everybody knows. We ask the neighbor that, who is doing your garage? It's 6 o'clock, it's beautiful every morning, and I'm here with the shovel and sweating. So what's happening? It's the recommendation thing. That's how Finland is. So be educated on what kind of odd, busy, forgetting, complex people entrepreneurs are. Knock on their doors and give them something simple. Something that you can convince that I know this person. That person is the one who does the garage for your neighbor. Okay, it's a no-brainer. Yeah, thanks. Let's test. And that's the style. And then it goes. Giving chances, but being the bridge one by one. So those are the kind of things that make it happen. And yes, if nobody comes to the door, the companies don't know about it, and they definitely are not seeking anything out. And that's one thing. Another thing is, if in our actions we don't educate the companies, I think we all the time we have been talking here of educating the system and making Finland better, and super important. Yes, we can all the time make it better, but let's have a system to tell the examples and educate the companies. Tell them that it's a benefit. If you have diversified working climate, it increases the working climate. It becomes better. And if the working climate is better, I always use it when we take programmers. The normal thing is to make 1 meter code every day. If they are in a bad mood, they do half a meter. That's it. So, it's better that they're in a good mood. But if the working climate is nice, they do 6 or 7 meters code because it's so great fun. So make it fun. Make the working climate fun. And if we do it, the diversity does that. And if we make 1 meter code or 6 meter codes, what happens to the profitability of the company? This formula is a no-brainer. It's profitable. So diversity is profitable. And let's educate companies for this. Obviously some companies don't know it yet. I don't know where they are, but I'm surprised. So simple recipes, but don't be scared about the companies or entrepreneurs. We are just complex people that forget everything. Just knock the door or take it from the sleeve and sell something and said, okay, let's do it.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's do it.
That was a good summary. Thank you both. And thank you, Laura, also mentioning that Business Finland has some of these support measures, because now there's a really good conversation going on in YouTube. Let's see, we have actually a few questions. There were questions about, is there support for training? I think this relates more to the DIB training, but also is there funding to support hiring internationals, much in the way that palkkatuki can be used to hire those that are unemployed, or the tax breaks and so forward? Do you know about these?
Well, palkkatuki can, of course, be utilized also for hiring an international. There used to be also different kind of funding called Talent Explorer at Business Finland, which was meant for hiring an expert for internationalization of company. But I have to say that it wasn't very utilized, because the money is maybe not the problem there. I don't know, maybe you disagree, but it's more about the readiness to take the step. And that's why we modified the funding tool to be the talent funding that we have at the moment. It can be utilized also for hiring an international to do the project in the company, but it's not especially for hiring, but for developing the practices in the company. But I need to kind of continue from this as well, that when we have done service design about companies, or what companies actually need is this one-stop shop where you can call whenever you have a question about hiring an international talent, whether the person is already in Finland or still abroad. And we do have that. Harry is the guy to talk about this. We have one phone number where you can call whenever you have anything to ask. And that has been the number one thing that companies have wanted to have. So now we do have that, but we need to start knocking the doors of the companies that they really know about this service. And what we also do is we collect these kind of good examples and we try to spread the word of that, but we need companies to tell in their networks, because even though public sector is wonderful, I don't really think that preaching from public sector to a company about how you should see the benefits of diversity is the most efficient way. I think that companies' message is stronger.
I would like to add something. One of the financial measures that I have come across maybe in the last year is by Tampere municipality. They do emphasize immigrants as potential recipients, well, company hiring an immigrant. But basically, they more often refer to it as somebody who is at risk of long-term unemployment. So that would be either somebody who is over the age of 55 or somebody who has lower education and similar risk factors. So there are also those municipal measures that people are not aware of and companies are not aware of either. Additionally, I wanted to add that from some of the research that we have both in Finland and in Sweden, we see that companies are actually experiencing survey fatigue. Basically, they are being reached out to too often, asked for input too often. They definitely do not have the time to respond to every single survey that they are invited for. On the other hand, we also have some research results from interlocality. Arcada University is doing it internationally with several other countries, where in their survey with employers, companies specifically said that we sometimes hire internationals because they will agree to work for a lower salary than the local population. So money sometimes can be an issue, and we just need to find those specific instances which measure would work in which situation.
Thank you, very important points. Any other questions or comments? Yes. We have Anna first here and then back there.
Yeah, thank you. And sorry, again, here. I have maybe more of a comment because this is such an interesting conversation here and about the how to approach companies and how tiring it is for businesses to try and participate, but it's endless surveys. But just some personal experiences from hiring for an internationally, globally expanding company, and now on the other side of the table, getting internationals hired in Finnish companies. I think Vaida's point about kind of more on the maybe policy side about making entrepreneurship easier and raising the limit for making an income is a very valid one and one that should be perhaps taken further. Just from my experience talking with immigrants who are entrepreneurs in Finland that are growing companies, and something that they and other Finnish companies that might be Finnish founded, but what's made them grow is the international talent, but international talent from day one. So the companies that recognize that they need diversity early on. And I think this like talent, what do you call it? Talent funding, yes. I think maybe needs, yes, more awareness or some kind of like easier, like more easily digestible resource for companies to understand. And for example, palkkatuki as an idea is an amazing one. Currently applying for palkkatuki for a person, and it's very difficult, incredibly difficult, and it's like complicated to get information. So while the thought is really good, and I think the service in itself is like a great way of bringing down the threshold, the kind of like fear of hiring someone, like, oh my goodness, what if they don't fit in? What if, like, you know, we can't accommodate the person or something? But like, at least it's not a huge financial risk for us. But then like making the services like more accessible, again, I guess that's my keyword for today. But like exactly what Mika said, like kind of about this building bridges, and that's what we do at Horizon a lot, that we try to bring the kind of threshold down as low as possible for you to give like an opportunity to employ an international, and like kind of, because often these like hesitations come from fear, from a place of fear. Maybe it's that I fear that I don't speak English well enough. I fear that the cultural gap is too great. But then most of the time you have a really driven, motivated employee who can help you expand to outside of Finland, and that's like a classic. I'm sorry, this went into like totally into a rant, but like Finnish companies, like if they want to expand internationally, we know from experience that you need to have internationals helping you with that. Finns are notoriously bad at selling, and I say this as a Finn. So yeah, I just think maybe we need more bridge building for sure, and more accessible instruments in helping people also to employ themselves while they are looking for that opportunity. Okay, now I stop. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Then we had one more question, a comment there, and I think that's the last one we will have time for.
Okay, thank you. My name is Ville Pitkänen. I'm from the E2 Research, and we've been talking about the small and mid-sized businesses, and I have to take the opportunity here to kind of advertise. We're currently working on a project that kind of, we've been interviewing and contacting middle and small-sized businesses and trying to find the kind of good examples and experiences. And the whole point of our project is to kind of bring the message from business to business. So kind of, instead of giving the kind of good story from the policy side, we kind of feel that if the entrepreneur is giving the good experience to another businesses, that is perhaps the best way to promote and advance these goals. So we'll be publishing results in November. So I had to kind of give this big advert.
Thank you. I think those were perfect last words, and really doing what you were calling for, these good examples. So very much thank you for sharing that. And let's give one more round of applause to our very insightful commentators. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now it's time to end the seminar part. Thank you everyone who followed on YouTube, and thank you for the very interesting conversation that's going on over there. I hope you can continue that in the chat and in social media using, once again, the hashtag HIWE-Open-Forum. And once again, thank you to everyone who's contributed to this project and everyone who's been watching us today. The live stream portion of today will end now, so thank you very much everyone online. And when we're ready, we can finish the live stream and continue with the people here in Helsinki. Basically, what we're going to do